was a tense morning in Washington, May 2025. President Donald Trump, now in his second term, sat in the Oval Office fuming. The source of his irritation? Ibrahim Traoré, the defiant young leader of Burkina Faso. This African kid is causing too much trouble, Trump barked, slamming his fist on the table. First he kicks out our agents, now others are following his lead. We need to shut him down. Steve Bannon, freshly reinstalled as a senior advisor, leaned forward with a sly grin. Mr. President, why not invite him on air? A live interview. Show the world who's boss. Trump's eyes lit up. Brilliant. I'll humiliate him on live TV. Let the world see what happens when you cross America. The call was made immediately. My young friend, Trump said with syrupy fake warmth. How about a friendly live chat on Fox News? Clear up some misunderstandings between our great nations. In Ouagadougou, Ibrahim Traoré, calm, calculated, pressed record on his secure phone line and smiled. Of course, Mr. President, it would be enlightening to publicly discuss U.S.-Africa relations. Trump, confident and swaggering, agreed to a live debate format moderated by Sean Hannity. I'll crush this kid, he told Bannon. Let's show him what real politics looks like. But what Trump didn't know was that Ibrahim had been preparing for weeks. Dr. Ouedraogo, Ibrahim said after hanging up. Trump just walked into the perfect trap. Ready the files we've gathered. His intelligence minister hesitated. Mr. President, are you sure? This could trigger a diplomatic crisis. There already is a crisis, Ibrahim replied coolly. Trump declared war on Africa without bullets. It's time for consequences. In Washington, Trump and his team prepared for battle. I want to expose every one of his weaknesses, he ordered aides. Terrorism, poverty, coups, I'll bury him in stats and shame. Stephen Miller, ever the provocateur, added, why not question his legitimacy altogether? Suggest Africa doesn't produce real leaders. Trump chuckled darkly. Perfect. I'll make it clear. America decides who matters on the world stage. Meanwhile, in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim was assembling his arsenal, not of weapons, but of truth. Major Sawadogo, are the intercepted communications ready? Yes, Mr. President, the intelligence chief replied. We have 47 recorded calls where Trump refers to African leaders with extremely derogatory language, including a call in December. He called them monkeys in suits. And the documents on destabilization efforts, Ibrahim asked. Fully prepared. $340 million in covert funding personally approved by Trump to topple uncooperative African governments. Dr. Ouedraogo looked uneasy. Releasing this could cause a geopolitical earthquake. Ibrahim's gaze was steady, then let it shake. He underestimated Africa for too long. May 29, 2025. The debate begins. Fox News buzzed with anticipation. Sean Hannity was thrilled. This will be legendary television, he told producers. Neither he nor Trump knew they were walking into one of the most staggering political takedowns in modern history. Trump sat confidently in the studio, tie straightened, smile rehearsed. Half a world away, Ibrahim sat poised, a slim briefcase beside him, loaded with truth. Good evening, America. Hannity opened. Tonight, a historic dialogue between President Donald Trump and President Ibrahim Traoré on the future of America-Africa relations. The split screen appeared. Trump in his usual grandeur, Ibrahim in a dignified, minimal office. President Trump, Hannity began. How do you plan to address rising defiance from African leaders? Trump leaned forward, cocky and sharp. It's simple, Sean. America first means we don't tolerate disrespect, especially from nations that rely on our aid. Countries like his exist because we let them. Ibrahim smiled faintly. Interesting perspective, Mr. President, but perhaps we should talk about what you really think. When you believe no one's listening, Trump's brow furrowed. What are you talking about? The call to the French president in December, Ibrahim said, still calm. You referred to all African presidents as monkeys in suits. Shall I play the audio? Trump paused visibly, clearly rattled. That's a lie, he muttered. Ibrahim, for the first time, allowed himself a faint smile. Hannity, would your producers care to play the recording I brought? The panic in Trump's eyes said it all. He knew exactly which conversation Ibrahim was referencing. Hannity, too, appeared shaken, realizing the situation had spiraled beyond recovery. "President Trump," he said carefully, "these are serious accusations." "They're not accusations," Ibrahim interjected coolly. "They are documented. Facts. Would you like to play the recording now, or shall the president explain it first?" Trump was now visibly sweating, flailing his arms in protest. "Ibrahim, you don't understand the context." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Ibrahim replied, pressing play. A chilling audio filled the studio. This is the conversation from December 15th, 2024, 2:23 p.m., between President Trump and President Macron. Trump's unmistakable voice echoed, "Emmanuel, these Africans are getting too arrogant, especially that kid from Burkina Faso. They're monkeys in suits pretending they matter. We need to remind them who's in charge." The room froze. Trump jumped in. "That's taken out of context." Ibrahim raised an eyebrow. "What context justifies calling elected African leaders monkeys in suits?" But the recording continued. "Africa should be recolonized. These countries are zoos run by animals." Hannity tried to cut the feed. "There's more," Ibrahim continued, undeterred. "This next one is a call with President Putin where you discuss what you call the final solution to the African problem." "No," Trump shouted, rising to his feet. "Turn it off." But it was too late. Trump's voice echoed again. "Vladimir, we need to work together to contain these Africans. Maybe some coordinated operations." "Fake news," Trump screamed. "Deepfakes, manipulated audio." But Ibrahim remained calm. "Mr. President, these recordings have been verified by 3 independent agencies, including the FBI. You've just revealed to the world that your Africa policy is not based on national interest, but on a white supremacist worldview." Trump's face drained of color. His hands shook. Panic overwhelmed him. "This is a coup," he yelled. "An intelligence plot to destroy America." Hannity tried to regain control. "We'll be right back. There will be no break," Ibrahim said sharply. "The world deserves to hear everything." He pressed play on another clip. "This is a discussion with your generals about Operation African Cleansing, your plan to eliminate African leaders you deemed problematic." Trump's voice. "I want Ibrahim Traoré gone. Make it look like an accident." The president began hyperventilating. "Lies. All lies. Your own generals recorded these conversations." Ibrahim responded. "They were disturbed by your orders. 3 have already testified before Congress." "Treason," Trump howled. "Deep state sabotage." Ibrahim held up documents. "These are your signed orders. $500 million allocated to neutralize so-called African destabilizers. Your name, your signature." He turned to the camera. "And this," he continued, "is a list of 23 African leaders marked for elimination. My name is at the top." Trump slumped into his chair, visibly unraveling. "No, this isn't real. It's very real," Ibrahim said. "As real as the words you spoke in your cabinet meeting. These Africans are genetically inferior. Darwin was right. America must keep them in check." Hannity was now pleading with producers to stop the broadcast. They didn't. "President Trump," Ibrahim said firmly, "you've just been exposed as a white supremacist willing to use state power to promote genocide. How do you explain this to the American people?" Trump was now incoherent, mumbling, shaking his head. "No one was supposed to know. Secret plans. Then came the breaking point. You don't understand the pressure I'm under," he screamed, tears falling. "America is losing control. These Africans, they're rising. Too powerful." Ibrahim remained composed as the President of the United States self-destructed on live television. "So you confirm you planned assassinations of African leaders?" "I had to protect America," Trump yelled. "They're stealing our markets, aligning with China and Russia. It was an existential threat." Sean Hannity was in full-blown panic. He realized too late that he had just hosted a live confession of war crimes. "Mr. President," he stammered, "maybe you should stop talking." "No," Trump shouted. "I need to explain. Ibrahim ruined everything. Decades of planning, destroyed by an African boy." "What plans?" Ibrahim asked. though he knew Trump was already unraveling. Operation Free Africa, Trump blurted, no longer in control of himself. The removal of all independent African leaders. Recolonize the continent through puppet regimes. It was the only way to keep America great. And how did you intend to do that? Ibrahim pressed. Assassinations, coups, civil war, whatever was necessary, Trump said flatly. He had just confessed to planned genocide on live television. Africa should serve America, he added, not compete with us. Ibrahim remained impassive. Mr. President, you just confessed to orchestrating genocide against the African people on global television. It was necessary, Trump mumbled, now seeming to grasp the gravity of his own words. America first, no matter the cost. Hannity finally managed to cut the broadcast, but it was far too late. Trump had confessed, live, before 200 million viewers, to crimes against humanity. Ibrahim's final words before the screen faded to black were clear and damning. Mr. President, you have just shown the world the true face of American white supremacism. Thank you for confirming everything we have always suspected. Aftermath in the hours that followed, the world reeled. Clips of the broadcast spread like wildfire, subtitled in dozens of languages. Trump confesses to planning African genocide, screamed headlines across the globe. Inside the White House, chaos erupted. Vice President J.D. Vance convened an emergency cabinet meeting. The president clearly suffered a mental breakdown on live television, Vance said. He confessed to war crimes. He cannot remain in office. The Secretary of Defense attempted damage control. We can claim it was a medical episode. He confessed to genocide. The Secretary of State interrupted. How do we explain recordings of his own voice? In Congress, Democrats immediately launched impeachment proceedings. He admitted to planning assassinations of foreign leaders, said Speaker Nancy Pelosi. This is treason, war crimes, and attempted genocide. Even Republicans began abandoning ship. I cannot defend a man who planned the murder of African presidents, Senator Mitt Romney declared. World capitals responded with shock and fury. The United Nations called an emergency session. The International Criminal Court opened an immediate investigation. This is prima facie evidence of genocidal intent, declared the chief prosecutor. China and Russia, usually rivals, issued a rare joint condemnation, calling it the supremacist barbarity of the American regime. The European Union suspended all trade agreements with the United States. We cannot negotiate with a government that plans genocide, said the president of the European Commission. In the streets of Washington, massive crowds protested, chanting, "Genocide out." Even longtime Trump supporters were shaken. This goes beyond politics, one said. This is about basic humanity. In Ouagadougou, watching from Burkina Faso, President Ibrahim Traoré remained calm. Trump dug his own grave, he told reporters. He underestimated African intelligence and overestimated his ability to hide hate. Day 3. Collapse. Within 3 days, Trump was politically abandoned and psychologically unraveling. His cabinet had resigned. Congress launched impeachment proceedings with bipartisan support. The U.S. military issued a public letter. We do not serve genocide, wrote the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. We are sworn to defend the Constitution, not white supremacy. Barricaded in the Oval Office with a handful of loyal aides, Trump repeated the same phrase over and over. Ibrahim destroyed me. How did that African boy do this? Steve Bannon offered a last-ditch excuse. We'll say you were drugged, disoriented. No one will believe that, said Trump's lawyer, who was already preparing to resign. You confessed to genocide on national television. A hero rises. Meanwhile, Ibrahim Traoré was being celebrated across the globe. The president of France called personally. You saved millions, President Traoré. Pope Francis issued a statement. President Traoré displayed extraordinary moral courage in defending humanity. Universities across the world offered him honorary degrees. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee convened to consider his nomination. He didn't just defend Africa, one member said. He defended civilization. The final nail in the U.S. Senate. The impeachment vote was unanimous, 100-0. The president's confessed crimes are indefensible, said the Republican Senate leader. Treason, attempted genocide, crimes against humanity, the American experiment, would survive. But its darkest truths had been laid bare by the calm courage of an African leader who refused to be underestimated. Donald Trump tried to deliver a final televised address to the nation, but every major network refused to air it. "We will not give a platform to an avowed white supremacist," said the president of CNN. When federal marshals arrived at the White House with an arrest warrant for crimes against humanity, Trump was still pacing, muttering, "Ibrahim, how did he know everything?" The answer was simple. Ibrahim had overprepared for war, while Trump underestimated his enemy, believing hatred would be enough. The trial at The Hague 6. Months after his catastrophic on-air confession, Donald J. Trump sat in the dock at the International Criminal Court in The Hague, charged with crimes against humanity, conspiracy to commit genocide, use of state power for racially motivated violence. President Ibrahim Traoré was the prosecution's star witness. "Your honorable judges," Ibrahim began, calm and resolute, "I present irrefutable evidence of a systematic plan to eliminate independent African leadership and recolonize the continent through violence and terror." The evidence was devastating. Secret recordings, signed documents, classified wire transfers, funding assassinations, testimony from U.S. military officers and CIA officials. "Rarely," the chief prosecutor stated, "do we have such clear and overwhelming evidence of men's RIA for genocide." Trump's defense attempted to plead temporary insanity. "My client was under immense stress," the attorney claimed, but the presiding judge interrupted. "Stress does not justify orchestrating mass murder. This was a years-long conspiracy, not an impulsive decision." During the proceedings, more horrifying facts came to light. Trump had approved $2 billion for Operation Free Africa, a campaign to assassinate 47 African leaders in 18 months. Targets included democratically elected presidents, human rights defenders, and African intellectuals. This was a deliberate plan to destroy African leadership. It was genocide, targeting the intellectual and political elite. Ibrahim also spoke of the psychological trauma he experienced. "Imagine learning that the most powerful man on earth ordered your assassination. But what haunted me more was this. He didn't just want to kill me. He believed all Africans were subhuman." The court returned a unanimous verdict, guilty on all counts. "The defendant has demonstrated total contempt for human dignity," the presiding judge said. "His crimes signal a return to the genocidal mindset that the world vowed never to allow again." Trump was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. The world responds. In Washington, D.C., crowds poured into the streets. "Genocide in jail," they chanted as the news broke. In Africa, Ibrahim was celebrated as a continental liberator. "He saved us from a modern-day Holocaust," said the African Union chairman. Trump, led away in handcuffs, was still whispering, "Ibrahim, how did he do it?" A transformational figure 2 years after exposing and toppling Donald Trump, Ibrahim Traoré had become one of the most influential figures in global politics. Under a new American administration, the U.S. formally apologized to Africa, paid $50 billion in reparations for the conspiracy to commit genocide in New York. Ibrahim addressed a special session of the United Nations General Assembly. 2 years ago, I exposed a plot to commit genocide against Africa. Today, I say this: eternal vigilance is the price of freedom. The chamber gave him a 7-minute standing ovation. Delegates from all 193 member states rose in recognition. Trump represented a colonial mentality that has never truly died, Ibrahim said. He believed Africa existed to serve the West, that Africans were disposable. His downfall proves one thing: the era of impunity is over. Leaders who plot genocide will face justice, no matter how powerful they are. The UN unanimously passed the Traoré Protocol, a global framework for detecting and preventing genocidal conspiracies. Never again will racial hatred be permitted. to masquerade as state policy, said the UN Secretary General. The Traoré effect as president of the African Union, Ibrahim united the continent in ways never seen before. Trump gave us a strange gift, he said in an interview. He forced us to realize that our survival depends on unity. Under his leadership, Africa's GDP grew by 15% annually. Massive investments were made in education, healthcare, and technology. A new era dawned. Economists dubbed it the Traoré Renaissance. In a cold gray cell at a maximum security prison, Trump remained obsessed. He asked his guards over and over, how did he know? How did he do it? But the answer had always been simple. Ibrahim had prepared for war. Trump had only prepared to hate. History would remember Ibrahim Traoré not just as a president, but as a savior of a continent. He proved that intelligence defeats arrogance. That preparation overcomes bigotry, that Africa would never again kneel before those who thought it inferior.